afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Modernist podcast. This is episode 12. My name is Abby, and I'm here to share with you some of what I've been knitting the past couple weeks since we last spoke. I'm getting more into a routine with these videos, and I'm hoping that I can really keep up with the every 2 weeks. But as you will see, I do not get a ton of knitting time, so I actually don't have any finished objects today. But I feel like that's okay. I've made some good progress on a lot of my projects. I've also cast on something new, so that'll be exciting. And I'm also using a new camera today, so I was a little bit fed up with just using my phone because of some technical difficulties that happened last episode. I'm not sure if you were able to watch that, but I decided to change things up a little bit. I'm using a new camera. It is a webcam, and I think it has a much better microphone than my phone does. Every time I film these videos, when I go to edit them, I always bump up the audio quite a bit, just because my phone mic is not very good and it doesn't really pick up. And I always feel like I'm yelling in these videos just so that my microphone will pick up what I'm saying, which isn't always the best. So anyway, I'm using a new camera. Hopefully the mic is better. And hopefully I will have fewer difficulties. But, you know, that's how it goes. And I probably shouldn't say anything more about it because I don't want to curse anything. So I'm drinking some tea today. This kind of seems to be my routine now. I'm really getting back into teas. I kind of go into phases with tea where I'll drink a certain type of tea and then I'll kind of stop drinking it and maybe start drinking a new kind of tea. And there was a phase of my life where I was drinking herbal tea every single night to help me sleep. And then I just kind of got done with tea and stopped drinking it. Coffee is kind of like my constant. I drink coffee every day. But today I'm drinking a very fall tea in honor of October and fall. It is beautiful outside right now, and it's definitely my favorite time of year, so I'm really getting into the spirit with my tea. I'm drinking cinnamon orange tea from Market Spice, and I brought the box here to show you. This is going to take a little bit of time to get used to this camera. This is Market Spice tea cinnamon orange, and as you can see on the box here, it was purchased in Seattle at the Pike Place Market. That's the word that I'm looking for. So yeah, it's a really delicious tea. Funny story, actually, I was drinking a similar tea to this one. It was kind of like a cinnamon orange spice tea last year in October, and I drank probably 2 or 3 cups of it every single day for over a week. And at the end of the week, I tried to make another cup of tea, and I just couldn't. Like the smell, I couldn't do it. I was just like, I had way too much of it. So a full year later, I was able to pull it back out, and it really just puts me in the mood for fall, and it's just a really good kind of fall tea. So that's what I'm drinking today. And I also wanted to mention before we get started that I have a little bit of a different format today. Well, not really, but I'm kind of adding on a couple of things. This past weekend, I was able to go to a kind of sheep wool festival, and just a pretty small one. So I have a few new yarn goodies to show you. And I also recently acquired some new knitting books. So I want to kind of talk about those and talk a little bit about the festival and show you my new yarn that I purchased. So Those are all going to be at the end, but I just wanted you to be aware that I'm kind of adding a few things on in case you're interested in sticking around for those. So, as I mentioned, I do not have any finished objects to share with you this week, but I do have, I think, 4 or 5 works in progress. So I'm working on a lot of things right now, and I'm really excited to show you. And I'm trying to think of which one to start with first. So I think the one I'm going to start with is my own design, actually, and I shared this last week. So this is just a new shawl design, and it is a crescent-shaped shawl. Let me untangle my yarn so I can actually show it to you. So I haven't made a ton of progress since last time I showed you, but I've made enough to warrant it being on the podcast. So here's where I'm at with this design. It's, as I mentioned, crescent-shaped shawl, so it's pretty long already and it's not very deep yet. So I want to kind of show you a little bit more of the details. It's got garter stitch, it's got easy lace, it's got multiple colors. Let's see if that will focus. Here we go. Yeah, it's just this really simple lace, and I've brought in this new color, which is just a gorgeous, kind of like orangey brown, like chestnut color. It's really pretty, and I think it pairs so nicely with the like cream speckled color that I have here. And this is Woolen Boon yarn, which I love. It's my first time working with Woolen Boon. I bought this yarn at House of Yarn in Nashville, Tennessee, and every time I work on this project, I just think of that yarn store and just my trip to Nashville, and it was a really nice trip, and yeah, I just really like working on this. I've definitely pulled it out like a million times. I kind of have moments where I will get really inspired to work on it and really motivated, and I'll have a lot of new ideas, and then I'll kind of put it away for a couple weeks and work on other projects. That's kind of where my headspace is right now. I haven't been super into designing. I think mostly just because my life is overwhelming me right now, and I just haven't had a lot of time to create. I think I haven't been feeling especially creative, which, I still feel the desire to create. I just sit down and it doesn't really come. But I do have this whole design kind of already planned out, and I'm planning on adding a third color to this. And I am really enjoying it. I just need to kind of pull it back out and get back into that mind space of designing and pattern writing. Because if I'm not in that mindset and I try to work on it, usually I'll end up making a mistake, or I'll end up doing something that later I kind of regret, and then I have to end up ripping it out. Or I'm just not writing very clearly, and then when I kind of go back and edit the pattern, I don't have the best notes to work with, or maybe I've written something down wrong, or something like that happens, and then I just feel like it takes me out of the creative process, and that's kind of when I start to dislike designing. So I've really wanted to avoid that situation, which is, I think, why I haven't pulled it out in a couple weeks, but it will get done, and not only it will get done, but like I know that I'll enjoy working on it when I'm in the right mindset for it. So that is coming along, and I'm really, I'm really happy with it, with where it's at right now. But that design has changed so many times, and the more I design knitwear, the more I realize that I'm not very good at it. And I don't mean that in like a self-derogatory way. What I mean by that is like first try, never works out. I end up ripping it out and redesigning and reconceptualizing my designs over and over and over, sometimes like up to 10 times before I finally get where I want to be, and I kind of finally realize my style and what I'm actually going for and what actually works with the yarn that I'm using. Um, and I think that it's interesting because when we talk about artists, we often kind of equate all of their work, uh, or we look at their body of work as very similar, and so everything that they create. I'm thinking especially of like musical artists. When we listen to an album, we kind of think like, wow, the different tracks are kind of blending together a little bit, and it kind of sounds similar. And I think the same is true with knitwear designers. We develop our styles, and we have, certain stitch patterns and stuff that we like, and we kind of repeat those, or different techniques, and we repeat those in our designs. And I actually feel the opposite right now. I feel like I'm struggling to find a common thread between all of my designs. I feel like I just haven't quite developed my style. And so while I like each of my individual patterns on their own, I really like what I've designed, and I really enjoy my work, but I just feel like I don't have kind of a body of like collective work yet. And so that's really what I'm working towards, is trying to develop my style, trying to find that common thread between all of my designs, and really focus in and kind of hone in on this, just my style, and what I want to design, and what I want to present to the world. So that's kind of where I'm at with my designing right now. That's kind of where my shawl is at as well, is just making sure that the next step, the next thing that I implement into it will just suit, not only the style of the shawl, but also kind of my overall style. But that's a little bit hard to do when you haven't quite figured out what that is. And I feel that way in my personal life too. I really have been working to develop my personal style, and I think once I get that down a little bit more, I will, the rest of my designing and my knitwear will kind of follow suit, and I'll kind of develop both at the same time. So anyway, that's where my head's at with designing right now. So I want to take a quick pause and mention that because I'm using a new camera and new software, and everything's kind of different, I will be pausing or stopping the video every now and then just to make sure that everything's working correctly. I just really can't afford to film a whole episode and lose it all. I just don't have the time to do that, and it would be really disappointing if I couldn't upload anything. So there will be a few jump cuts. That's just when I am pausing the video and starting again. Yeah, just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay, moving on. The next whip that I want to share is probably, no, it is my favorite project that I'm working on at the moment, and it is a mystery knit along. So if you do not want to see anything or hear anything to do with this design, I will put a timestamp to when I finish talking about this project and I move on to the next one. But I will say that as of right now, when I'm filming this, I have not completed any new clues. So I've completed, well, I'll talk about it, but this weekend a new clue was released. I haven't even begun working on that, and this video won't be released until like maybe a week later as well. So I think that the knit along will really be coming to a close, and you won't be getting anything, or you won't be seeing anything that should stay a mystery to you. Unless you've decided to come in a little bit late, or you're behind, or whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that you can totally skip ahead, but also it might not be necessary. So the knit along I'm speaking of is Texture Time by Stephen West. He does mystery knit alongs every couple years, I think. I don't know if he really has like a schedule with the mystery knit alongs, but I've never done one before. I've always missed them. And I just finished my Exploration Station shawl, which is behind me, by the way, and I've not finished weaving in the ends, as you can tell. I have been wearing it a lot, though. That was my first Stephen West pattern. I finished it just like last episode, so it was really a recent cast off, and or bind off. And I found out about the Texture Time mystery knit along like a week before it was actually going to start, and I just knew. I said to my partner Matt, I was like, I just really, really want to do this. And he was like super encouraging, and he went with me to my local yarn store and we bought the yarn. And he was definitely like the one to kind of push me into it, because I was like, well, I don't want to like spend all this money and all this time on something that I, have never seen. I don't know what it is. It's just a little bit intimidating, and it's a little bit kind of putting yourself out there quite a bit, as well as, your money and your time and everything else that comes along with knitting. And he was just like, you love this designer. You have always wanted to do one of his mystery knit alongs. Now's the time. Like, you're in a little bit of a slump with not necessarily knitting, but kind of creative processes. So anyway, he was really encouraging in getting me to do this, and I really appreciate that, because this was exactly what I needed at the moment. Anyway, I want to talk about the project. So again, Texture Time mystery knit along. If you don't want to do the mystery knit along, you can also buy the pattern when it's released. So as of today, when I'm filming this, this is the weekend that Stephen West released Clue 3, and I just finished Clue 2. So 1 and 2 are completed, but I haven't started anything else. So that's where I'm at. If you're worried about seeing something that you don't want to see yet, just letting you know that's where I'm at. And yeah, skip ahead, because I'm about to show you what it looks like now. So I'm trying to figure out how to preface this, because there's a lot going on here, especially with my yarn choices actually. But I'm just gonna show it to you. So I don't know what this shape is. This is moth shape. But here we are. This is the shawl so far. Yeah, I don't know what is going on. I really have no idea what's going on at all, but I love it. I'm enjoying like well, not every second of it, but almost every second of it. So yeah, let me break this down a little bit for you in case you are not participating, or you're just curious. So we started with this middle piece here, and this is brioche. This whole like middle section here is all brioche, and lots of colors going on, lots of kind of increases and decreases, and yeah, there's just a lot going on. I especially love this column. I'm trying to figure out how to show this to you, so let me do a little bit of a better job of that. So we've got this kind of center column here with these big yarn overs, which looks super, super cool. And we've also just got a lot going on in terms of just the stitch pattern in general. Let's see, my camera focused and then I moved. So let's see if it'll focus again. Come on. There we go. Okay, there we go. So you can tell the stitch pattern kind of, it's not straight knit and purl columns, they alternate. And so that definitely keeps it interesting when you're knitting, because you really have to pay attention. You've also got 5 colors going on at the same time, which is a lot. And then there's also knit increases and decreases going on as well. So it's a little bit of a complex brioche project. If you've never knit brioche before, I would not recommend this being your first brioche project. But he also includes a non-brioche version of the pattern. So if you are not into brioche, there's another version that you can do. It's a little bit different looking, but I think it's beautiful all the same. But if you are into brioche and you want kind of more of a complex pattern that you can really just dive into and get sucked into it and really kind of tune out the rest of the world, this is definitely a project to do that with. I was listening to stuff and watching stuff while I was knitting this, but if I were to go back and do it again, I might just kind of listen to some music or listen to a podcast or something and really just kind of tune out the rest of the world while I'm working on this, because it's just one of those projects that you kind of have to do that with. And I feel like as I'm knitting on projects like that, I really appreciate the fact that they're like forcing me to focus on one thing and really focus my attention on it and really just kind of tune out the rest of what's going on. So anyway, so you knit the this kind of middle panel with the brioche, and then you knit these different wings, as he calls them. So here's a wing, and if you look closely, you will notice that in each wing there are 6 Latvian braids, a total of 6 Latvian braids in each wing. And I don't know if you have knit a Latvian braid before. If you shouldn't, you should, but maybe not 12 of them to start out with. I had never knit a Latvian braid until I started working on this project, and I'd always wanted to. I always thought they looked really pretty. I just never had picked up a pattern with a Latvian braid in it. My throat's getting a little dry. They are pretty easy. I mean, they're pretty straightforward. They're not too complex, but they're a little bit annoying to knit. I would not say that I really enjoy the process of knitting them. And I mean, 12 Latvian braids with over 100 stitches. What could go wrong, right? I didn't have any mishaps with the wings. I just knit right along, and you know, it definitely took a while. I'm really happy to be done with that clue. As soon as I realized I was going to have to repeat the process mirrored on the other side, I was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm doing. And I did it. I completed the clue this morning. My nose is so itchy right now. I think it's to do with the wool. Yeah. So it's a lot of knitting. It's a lot of complex knitting. Yeah, it really is. Sorry, my neighbor is. I have knit a moth. Stephen West has instructed me to knit a moth. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be a shawl. I don't understand it, but I'm really excited by it and I'm really happy with it. I think it's gorgeous. It's definitely something different, which really is kind of what I was looking for. I was looking to knit something just completely different, completely kind of out of the blue in terms of construction and even just the stitch patterns and like, yeah, as soon as I started the brioche, which I actually had to start over probably like 7 or 8 times, and not necessarily because it was difficult, but because I just didn't understand what Stephen was asking me to do. And I kept thinking that I kept starting it, and you know, I'm going in blind, right? Like I haven't seen anything of the shawl. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just following along the instructions, which were written very well, by the way. And I started over, yeah, probably 7 times because I just kept thinking it looked wrong. It just didn't look right. And that's when I realized that the knit and purl columns alternate, and it was supposed to look like that. And once I got a few more rows in, I was like, all right, I just gotta trust the pattern, because I thought the pattern was wrong. I was like, the knit columns do not line up. I've never knit brioche like this before. I don't think this is right. But I was like, there's not going to be an error in the first few rows of a mystery knit along, a Stephen West mystery knit along. And so I really trusted the pattern and kept going, figured it out, realized I was doing it correctly the whole time, and I was just taking it out because I did not trust Stephen West. So I learned my lesson, and everything else in the pattern from here on out, I've just completely trusted. And even if I don't understand what I'm doing, I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go with it. And that's how you come out with a moth for knitwear. I don't know, maybe this is not a shawl. Like maybe we're making, I don't know, some armor or something like this. Maybe I should not have trusted Stephen West. Maybe he has led me astray. Who's to know? So one last thing I want to say about this project before I talk about the yarn. Even though this looks complex, and it is complex, there's a lot going on, it's a lot to pay attention to. I knit a lot of this, including the brioche, most of the brioche, while I was drinking. So yeah, I brought it on vacation. I brought a bottle of wine. The majority of this I knit while I was drinking wine. So I made one mistake, and actually I made two mistakes. Second one, I tinked back, and because it was too bad of a mistake. I like dropped stitches, and there's multiple colors and increases and decreases going on, and I was like, no, I just tinked it back. The first one though I left in, and I don't think you can tell at all. I'm gonna hold it up, and the mistake is somewhere in here, and I don't think you can tell. Let me know if you can tell what the mistake is. I'm not going to say anything. Maybe I'll tell you when I finish the project, but if you saw something wrong with it, let me know. Actually, maybe don't, because then I'll feel bad about it because I didn't go back and fix it. But I was just like really I was in the zone, and I just didn't want to go back, and I didn't feel bad about it. So I just kind of fixed it, and not fixed it, but I kind of like assessed where I was at and made a couple of changes and then kept going. So yeah, okay, let's talk about the yarn. I'm using gorgeous yarn, and I'm so happy with my colors, even though this is so different from anything I do. I think that's why I like it. It's so different for me. It's got reds and pinks and brown. I never use brown. Yeah, so it's really, really different for me, but it is so autumnal. And as I was knitting on this in the mountains with just gorgeous trees of so many different colors, so much depth in the colors, it was gorgeous. I was working on my shawl, which had all of the same colors as the trees almost. Maybe not pink, but basically the rest of the colors. And it matched the environment that I was in. It was just beautiful. It was amazing. It was an amazing weekend, and I'll talk about it at the end. But the colors that I'm using, or the yarn rather, so my main color, let me preface, the shawl, the pattern is set up with a main color and 4 contrasting colors. And the 4th contrasting color is supposed to be mohair, but mohair is expensive. They only had lace weight mohair at my yarn store, and it was also so expensive. And if I could have afforded it, a million times would have bought it, but a million times I would not have bought it a million. Well, I guess if I could afford a million skeins of mohair, I probably, that might be a little overkill. I've never knit with mohair before, but I really like it, so who knows? Maybe I'd buy a million skeins. Anyway, getting off topic. 4th contrasting color is supposed to be a mohair, but I didn't do that, and he said it was fine, so I was like, he said it's okay, I'll just go with it. So let's see. Is this, oh, this is not, that's a different receipt. I thought that was a receipt telling me what all the yarns were, but it's not. 1 second, let me go see if I can find the receipt. Oh, I thought I was so prepared. Okay, I don't have the receipt from the trip to the yarn store to my OIS, but I think I have all the tags. So my main color is this gorgeous, gorgeous, let's see, let's let it focus for a second. I'm gonna try to get better about this. I feel like I just can't hold it still. Maybe I've had way too much caffeine. Here we go. So you can see how pretty this is. It's mostly gray, but it has all of these speckles of different colors. And it just like jumped out at me. So this is what I decided to go with my main color. And this is Primrose Yarn Company. I think the base is Adelaide. It is a 100% superwash merino. It's also single ply. And the color is Charcoal and Glitter, which is a very descriptive name for it. So yeah, it's got, again, the base is kind of like this silvery blue gray, or kind of like a cooler gray with speckles of red and brown and pink and some yellows, a couple speckles of blue. It's just so, so pretty, and I'm so happy I went with this as my main color. Excuse me. And then for my contrasting color 1, I decided to go with a white to kind of tie it all together, use more of a neutral. And this, it's nothing special, it's just some Premier yarn that I picked up at Joann's. I actually already had it in my stash, and you know, it's not terrible. It kind of sticks out because it doesn't really match the, like, I don't know. I mean, it's a commercial yarn, but that's okay. So that's number 1, and then number 2 is this bright red. Well, not really. It's like a burnt orange. Yeah, there we go. It's like a burnt orange, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. It's definitely not a bright red, but it's definitely brighter than what I usually go for. So I think that's why I said that. And this is Cascade Yarns Heritage, which is 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon. So it's really soft yarn. This is in the colorway, doesn't have one, but it is the color 0818. If you're interested, all of this will be in my Ravelry project page as well, which will be linked down below in the show notes. So that's that. And then also in Cascade Yarns Heritage is my brown, which is just kind of a deep chocolatey brown. Nothing too special, but it's a very warm brown, which really fit the tone of the tones fit the rest of the colors. And that probably doesn't have a name either. Let me check. It's the Heritage yarn, and it is 1216 is the kind of color name, I guess, or the number for that colorway. And then the last color that I'm using, yes, this takes 5 skeins, is this is my 4th color, which would have been the mohair one. And this is come on. There we go. Neighborhood Fiber Co. Rustic Fingering. And this is another single ply. So these are the only 2 single plies I have in the shawl. This is 100% superwash merino. And the colorway is Cross Street Market. And it's just this really, really pretty kind of light pink. It's probably my favorite pink color. So yeah, those are all of my colors. I love the yarn that I'm using. It's just been a very luxurious project to work on. I've loved almost every minute of it. Those Latvian braids were starting to get old, but finished them. And I was looking over clue 3. I won't say anything other than it looks quite a bit more simple than the other 2 clues, which might be a good break. So yeah, I'm gonna take a quick chocolate break. I'm just eating Trader Joe's dark chocolate, but I love chocolate. So, oh, and I did swatch. I shared a photo of my swatch on Instagram actually, and I'm glad I swatched because not only did I get the correct stitch and row count, or gauge, but I realized so originally I made the red color my 4th color, which was going to be kind of it's supposed to be like the pop of color, and it was described as like being having a big presence in the shawl. And I was like, I think this is my pop, like my most, I guess the color that like pops the most. And I was like, I'm just gonna go full or like orange red. I'm just gonna go with it. And then I was looking at it, I decided to change it to the pink, a little bit more toned down. I'm in love with this pink, and I'm really happy with that choice. I think it would have been very bright for me if I had gone with the orange red as the 4th contrasting color, so I'm pretty happy that I did that. Okay, we are no longer talking about the texture time in MKAL, so if you skipped ahead, welcome back. I'm going to move on to the rest of my projects. So, let's see. I want to talk about, well, I wanted to touch base with this sweater that I'm knitting, and I actually talked about it in my last podcast, but I lost that footage, so I'm going to talk about it now. And this is the Fort Pullover by Jared Flood. I started this back in like June, I think, sometime over the summer for my partner as a graduation gift. He graduated with a bachelor's degree, so I wanted to make him a sweater. It's the first sweater that I've ever knit him. So far, the curse has not affected us, the sweater curse. And I don't think it will, but I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I'm just being really silly, but I have shown/shared this sweater before, and it really is just kind of a big black blob, to be honest. It's big, it's very black, it's kind of a blob. So yeah, this is where we're at so far. This is the entire body completed, so I'm going to drop the front down. Here's the back, and then that's the front. So yeah, it's not very interesting to show on the podcast because it blows out the screen. You can't really see it. And honestly, knitting on it is like I'm not gonna say not enjoyable, because I've really enjoyed working on this, and I love making him stuff, and it's been a great project to work on. I think the black yarn has kind of made me not want to pick it up again. I put it down for a few months. But I'm so close to finishing, and he's been talking about it lately. He's been like, when am I going to be able to wear my sweater? It's cold outside. You told me I would wear it when it's cold outside. Or I told him he would get it when when it was cold outside. So anyway, pulled it back out. I'm going to start working on it again. The body is finished, and let's see. Let me try to show the texture. It's kind of a, what's the word? Like a basket weave texture a little bit, or like it's like a ribbed texture, but it's essentially the texture is 2x2 ribbing, but alternated every 2 rows. So it's really easy, and then the bottom, the hem is just 1x1 ribbing. Everything's finished very nicely, so it has what's the cast on I'm looking for? It has not provisional cast on. Damn it. I was just thinking about the cast on too. I will put it up on the screen. You're probably all shouting it at me. Nope, it's gone. Okay, well, you know what I'm talking about. The ribbing cast on. The one that takes forever, but it looks super, super nice. So body's done, and I have almost a sleeve finished. Is it gonna come to me? Nope. Anyway, almost a sleeve done. The sleeve is that same texture, and it just slowly increases, starts cast on at the cuff. And yeah, I'm slowly working on it. I lengthened the body, I'm lengthening the sleeves to fit him. He's very tall. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's, you know, I'm working on it. I have this sleeve to finish, I have another sleeve to knit, and then I just have the like collar neckline to finish. So I really am so close. The body was like, you know, the majority of it. The body was knit not top down, the opposite. It was knit bottom up in the round, split for the sleeves, and then knit the front and the back straight with some shaping for the neckline and shaping for the sleeves. And then I'm doing the sleeves bottom up as well, knit in the round. I'm knitting them on magic loop. I need to put my needles back in. I think once I put my needles back in and look at the pattern again and kind of resituate myself with the pattern, I will pull that back out and start working on it and really finish it. I just have gotten distracted with so many other things. Yep, so I just need to finish that sleeve, knit the exact same one. So seam the sleeves on, sew the sleeves on, and then it'll be a finished sweater. So I kind of want to like make a challenge to myself and say that by next episode I will have the next sleeve done. But I feel like that's really saying a lot because I really only get knitting time over the weekends, and I feel like I'm gonna want to work on my texture time mystery knit along shawl instead. So we'll see, but I really do want to finish that. That's a great men's sweater, by the way, if you're looking for just kind of a very I guess kind of a more minimalist textured men's pullover. It's a really good pattern. All right, so the last work in progress that I want to share is one that, again, I haven't shown in a long time and I'm still plugging away on. It is a pair of socks, and I am housing them in this little project bag that I made myself. I sewed it. It's not very complicated, but I'm really proud of it still. I do not sew, so I'm happy, or I'm proud of myself with any projects that I do sew. So I'm knitting my dad a pair of socks for Christmas, and I'm so close to finishing them, kind of. I'm kind of close. Last year I kind of started what I think is now a tradition, where I bought him yarn for Father's Day, and then in between Father's Day and Christmas, I knit him a pair of socks, and then his Christmas gift was the socks. So I kind of combined the two occasions into one gift, which is, you know, I mean, it's a hand knit pair of socks, okay? And my dad's super tall, so he has huge feet, and it takes a long time. It's a lot of work. I feel like that's justified. I don't pump out socks like a lot of people do. You know, again, I don't get a lot of knitting time. And so when I do, I feel like it's really special. And anyway, I'm going to stop trying to justify what I'm doing because I think it's fine. I justify it on my own. But here's a sock. It's got a heel. It's got a pretty long leg. I think that this leg is like, I don't know, 8 or 9 inches long. Pretty long. And this is the yarn that I'm using. It is Lion Brand. I want to say it's something like Wool Ease, but I don't think that that's the name of the yarn. It's in my project. It's in my project page on Ravelry. So the name of the yarn and the colorway will be listed out if you are interested. I just picked it up at Michael's. I just thought it was like a neutral looking yarn with a bit of color, bit of interest. It's kind of a self-striping. It's kind of self-striping. It's not as fun as self-striping, but anyway, this sock has a heel. I just did, I think that these socks are 72 stitches on size 1 needle or 2.25 needle. 72 stitches, 2x2 ribbed cuff, 8 or 9 inch leg, can't remember, heel flap and gusset, and heel, just kind of like a normal rounded heel. And yeah, that's what I'm working on. And then I just have, I think I need to knit 11 inches before I put the toe in, or 10 inches, I can't remember, but so that's that one. And then I don't know if you remember, but I was working on these 2 at a time, just as kind of, I had never done 2 at a time before. I just wanted to try it out. And I knit the entire leg 2 at a time. I split for the heels, and I just haven't been knitting them 2 at a time. I've been knitting them 1 at a time now. But the other one is almost in the same spot. So it's got a leg, there's the heel, and I'm just working on the foot right now. And I just think it's so much easier to like take single socks with you, and it was just kind of a pain, I feel like. I don't know. I didn't hate working 2 at a time, but I feel like I enjoy working 1 at a time more because I just get into a better rhythm with it. Again, it's easier to take singular socks with me, and that's kind of all the only time I've been working on socks lately is either if I get home, I'm brain dead and I really want to knit, or I have the time to knit, which is not very often, but if I do, I'll usually work on a sock just because it's mindless. Or if I go somewhere and I want to knit, I usually take a sock because it's small, it's portable, it's easy to carry around. If I don't end up knitting, I don't feel bad for lugging around like a huge bag with all of my knitting, because I just have, this little bag of just one sock. So anyway, that's where I'm at with those. I just wanted to share because my deadline is Christmas, so I have a few months, but I figured I'd pull them back out and start working on them again just so that I don't have this kind of like mad rush to finish them, because I'm like, oh, I've got time, and then, you end up running out of time. We all know how that goes. So I just decided to pull them back out now. And I think my tentative goal is like Thanksgiving break is kind of when I'd like to have them finished. But I don't have to finish them until Christmas. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. Those are all of my whips. I am enjoying every one of them, I think. And yeah, I have been dreaming about a new sweater, but I have 2 sweaters on the needles. I'm still working on my granito, but I have not put any work on it since last I showed you, so I'm not gonna show it to you again. But the last thing, or another thing I wanted to mention was that while, so let's see, how am I gonna segue into this? I'll just say that this past weekend I took photos of my latest shawl design, and I think I shared this in my last episode. I know I shared it on the podcast before, but this is a shawl that does not have a name yet. I've been calling it the Plymouth shawl because I used Plymouth yarn to knit it, but this is just a textured shawl. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Just a textured triangle shawl knit in worsted weight yarn. It knits up so quickly. I think all of my testers reported that it took them between 12 and 15 hours to knit, so super, super quick. And then at the bottom here, it has this lace, just super intuitive, simple lace, and yeah, it's just this huge, cozy shawl, very textured shawl. It's super enjoyable to knit, I think, because it's just got just enough going on that it really keeps your interest, but it's also a great TV knit because you can just kind of zone out and follow the pattern at the same time. So Anyway, I just wanted to share that I took photos of the shawl finally, which means that I will be publishing the pattern soon. My goal is just to publish it in October. And I'm filming this about a week earlier than I'm actually going to upload it, just to give me time to edit it and upload it next weekend. So who knows? It might already be published. Probably not, but it might be. I have a couple more photos that I want to take of it before I actually publish it. But other than that, the pattern's finished. I just need to edit the photos, put in the photos, and then I do have a lot of work in terms of the Ravelry page, and I would also love to give this pattern away for a few giveaways, or just give it away to some friends and stuff like that. So I just need to sort all of those things out, put it on my new website, which I have a new website, by the way. If you're interested, it's just abbymorland.com. Everything's always linked down below, so you can easily find me on the internet. But stuff like that. I just have been really figuring out more of a routine when I publish patterns and making sure that I'm hitting all the things, that I'm doing all the things that I want to do and that I'm not forgetting stuff. Because when you're a one-woman show and you're doing it super, super, super on the side, because I have 3 other jobs, oh my God, my life's crazy. So this is very much a side thing, and I don't have a lot of time. Just have a few hours a week, if that, to put toward it. So anyway, just making sure that, you know, I have my checklist down, and I'm making sure that I'm hitting everything and I'm doing what I need to do. It's definitely, yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll talk more about that at some point if you are interested in that. I am always interested in people's creative processes, and also like just what they do if they have some sort of business or side hustle. Just how they organize everything is very much what I'm into. So go ahead and like this video if you are interested in that, and maybe leave a comment, let me know, because I have really been thinking about that, and I think it would be really fun to do for me if I have the time, but I don't know if it would be interesting to watch. So let me know. But yeah, I will be publishing this pattern soon. I'm going to take it off because I'm wearing a wool sweater, which is super, super cozy. Did not knit it, unfortunately, but it's super warm, so I'm going to take that off. And now I want to get into some yarn acquisitions, and then I also want to talk about a couple new knitting books that I have acquired recently. And I'm out of tea. It's kind of sad. So this past weekend, I went up to Sun Valley, Idaho, which is a beautiful place, and it's kind of in the middle of it's like in a valley. It's in a valley, and so it's really pretty with mountains all around. And the fall in Sun Valley is just gorgeous. It's so, so, so pretty. It was worth it. It was totally worth making the journey there. And I went for the Trailing of the Sheep Festival, and what that means is every year, Sun Valley and Ketchum and kind of and Haley, the surrounding cities, they're really small towns, get together and celebrate sort of farmers and shepherds and you know, just the agriculture around sheep and wool, and really just kind of celebrate the fact that they are still free to do the things that they want to do. And yeah, I will link the website down below because I don't have time to go super into it. But anyway, I was not able to be there for the parade, for the actual trailing of the sheep, but I was able to be there for the sheep trials, where they have dogs who are trained to herd sheep, and they just have this huge field with this collection of sheep. I think there's like 5 sheep, and over the whole weekend, so over about 3 days, they just have these trials where the dogs will herd the sheep in kind of around poles and through gates, and eventually will at least attempt to get them into a gate, so that or into a pin, and then the owner, the trainer of the dog, will close the gate, and then they've kind of completed their like run. And I think each dog got like 3 trials or 3 runs throughout the entire event. So I didn't actually see any dogs who completed the trial, but I heard about some who did, and apparently this year was just a really good one. And I do have some video, so I don't know if I'll have already put that up, but I wasn't able to get super great video because it was just super far away, and it was such a big field, but it was so interesting to watch, and it was just really cool to see these beautiful dogs, just very well trained and just enjoying the job that they have to do. You can really tell that they, not only have been trained to do this, but it is in their, it's just very intuitive for them. But anyway, yeah, it was just really cool to see that tradition. I've never seen it before, so that was cool. And I also got to see a sheep being sheared, which was another cool thing that I got a video of. And I also got some wool from. So the guy who was there shearing the sheep has been shearing sheep for, I believe, about 30 years, maybe a little bit less than that, but he had been there shearing sheep from the very beginning of the festival. And they just bring sheep in. It's time to shear them, and so they shear them just kind of in the middle of the festival with, and everyone can see how the process is done. And it was really cool. He sheared the sheep in about 4 minutes, which is the fastest I've ever seen a sheep sheared before. And he also did it super well. And by the end of it, the sheep was pretty happy. And all of the wool from the sheep kind of came off in one piece. And it was really gorgeous wool. And as I mentioned, I got a little piece of the just completely raw wool, which was cool because I don't think I've ever been that close to just completely raw, wool, literally straight from the sheep. So anyway, that was, it was just a really cool festival. There were lots of vendors with lots of different types of wool and roving and finished objects, knitting, knitwear. There was embroidery, there was felting, there were rugs and baskets, and lots of different weaving. So anyway, if you're ever in the area, it happens every year in October, and it's actually a week-long event, so that's pretty cool. It's a week long, and it's in different towns, and it's just a really cool event. Lots of people come in from out of town, but there are also lots of locals, and so it's a really cool environment. And I got some yarn. So actually at the festival, I picked up some Lovely Valley wool, which is this gorgeous 100% merino and Rambouillet. I don't think I'm saying that right. Wool. And yeah, it's such a pretty rustic wool. I wouldn't say that it's like soft, but it's also not rough. So it's kind of that like rustic yarn, rustic wool. And again, it's Lovely Valley wool, which is born and shorn in the USA, according to the little thing here. But the ranch is in Nevada, and then the wool is milled in Wyoming. So yeah, it's just a really cool, like, relatively local to me wool, and it's just really, really pretty. She had several different colors. So she had the darker sheep, the black sheep. She also had white sheep, and then she had spun it together to create kind of a lighter gray sheep. So it was not dyed or anything. It's completely undyed and raw. Yeah, it's just really, really pretty. And what I plan to do with this is knit some gloves. I think I'm gonna knit some gloves because my hands get super, super cold in the winter. I don't have any good gloves, and I have fingerless mitts, but when it's really cold out, those don't really cut it. So I'm planning on making some gloves for myself out of this wool, and I'm really excited about that. So then we went to the local yarn shop called Sun Valley Needle Arts, and I got some yarn there. And this yarn company was actually vending at the festival, but there was just so much going on that I wasn't able to actually pick some up there. But we went to the local yarn shop on our way out, and it was really nice just to visit. I had been there before, and so it was just fun to drop in. And I got some of this blue Savannah wool, which I've never seen it before. It's got a really pretty logo. So it's blue Savannah, and I believe that it is dyed in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Yeah, hand dyed. And this is the Chickadee base. It's 100% superwash merino. It is another single ply. And the colorway is Spanish Roja. And it's just this really really gorgeous kind of deep magenta, and it's pretty tonal, and I just thought it was really, really pretty. So I picked that up, and then I also, while I was there, found this sock yarn, and it was pretty inexpensive, so I just decided to throw it in. It is made in Italy, and I cannot pronounce the company at all. I'm not even gonna try. I'm just embarrass myself. But this is what it is. I will put it in the description box. That's what it's called. And then on the other side, it says forever. So I think this might be like the yarn, or maybe that's what it says. And then this is what it's translated as in English. I don't know. But it's got like a lovely little shepherd and some sheep as the logo. So I really liked that. But yeah, it's this really pretty self-striping, I think, I'm assuming it looks self-striping sock yarn, and it's got all these different colors, and I just thought it was really pretty and kind of matched the like warm autumnal tones that I'm apparently into right now. So I got two skeins of this for a pair of socks for myself, and I don't know what kind of wool it is. It feels like it has some sort of synthetic fiber in it, but it definitely feels like wool. So I'm assuming it is. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, but they only had two skeins left of this colorway, and yeah, I thought it was really pretty, so I'm excited to knit some socks out of that for myself. Okay, so that was the weekend recap and what I purchased there. It was a lovely weekend, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's just a lovely, lovely little cluster of towns, and I definitely want to go back really soon. So let's see. Okay, I also acquired a couple of books. It was my birthday a few months ago, and on my birthday list I had quite a few knitting books. So I just wanted to kind of go through them a little bit and talk about them. I've not had a chance to really sit down and mull them over, but both of them I've gotten at the library multiple times, and so that's kind of when I knew like it's time for me to own these books because I've borrowed them so many times. So I have them right behind me, and I'm just gonna grab them. Just gonna put my lights right there for the time being. So the first one is the Knitter's Handy Sweater Book of Patterns by Anne Budd. Both of these are very well-known books, by the way, but I just still wanted to talk about them because I feel like knitting books are maybe taken for granted a little bit, and this is not going to be like a review of the books, but in case you're not aware of them, these are two books that you should be aware of if you are a knitter. So the Knitter's Handy Sweater Book of Patterns, no, Book of Sweater Patterns, and it's by Anne Budd, who is an amazing knitter and designer. And this is a handy book for sure. It's got, not only does it have sweater patterns, like the actual patterns, it really is just an in-depth view on how to design and also how to grade kind of sweaters. And I think really what it's for is showing you the different styles of sweaters, the different style sleeves, just all the different ways of construction, or the kind of the main ways of constructing a sweater. And it really breaks it down, and is just very informative in that way. But it also gives you child and adult sizes. And so it really helps you to kind of gain an understanding of how to alter sweater patterns, how to maybe create your own sweater patterns, and then also maybe how to design. It's kind of a leaping off point of how to design and then grade sweater patterns. So if you only have this book, I don't know that I would really say this is enough to like design and grade an entire sweater. But it's definitely enough to alter sweater patterns and probably enough to knit your own, like kind of design one for yourself and just knit one in your own size. It talks about gauge. There's just a lot of like information. It's got a lot of these like spreadsheets with all the different sizes and, you know, according to your gauge, what your stitch count should be and your yarn requirements and kind of all of that. And it talks just a lot about sweaters. So if you are interested in sweater construction, sweater design, or you enjoy just knitting other people's sweater patterns, I would still recommend this book because it really gives a lot of information on how to alter different constructions. It's just a great in-depth book on sweaters. So I really would recommend purchasing that. It was like, I don't know, 13 or 15 bucks on Amazon, really inexpensive. And then the second book I have is The Comprehensive and Timeless Guide, and it's called The Principles of Knitting, Methods and Techniques of Hand Knitting. This is a hefty book. This is a knitting Bible, and I think anyone who is serious about knitting probably owns this book. You can see it's a pretty large book. There we go. And it has so much information. Probably, I mean, it is the principles of knitting, and so I'm not going to say that it has everything you need to know, but it does have all of the basics. And the reason I think this is handy to have is because if you are a self-taught knitter, or if you took a class and now you're kind of on your own and you don't really know what resources are available to you, you're probably going to turn to the internet. You're probably going to turn to YouTube, which is a great resource and will tell you much of the information that you need. But there might be some conflicting views, and while that's not necessarily a problem, it might make you confused if you're a real beginner and you don't really know kind of where to start. You might be conflicted because one person's saying to do this and another person's saying to do this, and that's because a lot of what's in knitting is pretty subjective. A lot of the techniques that you do that you use are subjective. And the ways of doing things, such as blocking and checking your gauge and doing a lot of that, there are a lot more kind of scientific, more like, I guess more scientific ways to do it, and then more like subjective ways to do it. But when it boils down to it, multiple people do it very different ways and they get very similar results. So why I think this is handy is because it is all of that information written by one person. And she has kind of compiled a lot of different people's take on these big topics, such as checking your gauge and blocking and different types of construction and different knitting techniques and also different stitch patterns. And she's taken all of those things and compiled it into one resource that is cohesive. That's why I think this is a great resource, because you're getting one knitter's view on everything, which means when you read about swatching, for example, about checking your gauge, and you go to dress or block your swatch, you're not going to hear one thing about checking gauge and another thing about blocking your gauge swatch. You're going to just get one cohesive look or perspective on that specific topic. So I think it's super handy to have. I would recommend it to any serious knitter, whether you are into designing or you're just knitting for yourself or you're knitting for your friends and family or whatever. I would recommend this book. I think it's really handy. And I didn't even mention the author. Oh my god. It is by June Himmons Hiatt. So again, I will put everything down below, and this is available on Amazon for around $30 or $35, I think. But it just has so much information. It covers so many different topics, and a lot of topics that other resources don't cover. Some of them are a little bit harder to get into. Maybe it's not really clear how to do something. In the knitting community, she kind of really breaks it down and really just honestly just like critically thinks about it and then instructs you how she would do it. So let's see, I'm just going to read off a few things that it covers. So there's circular and flat knitting, picking up stitches, casting on and casting off, selvages, steeking, increase and decreases, felting, double fabrics, what else? Let's see, it goes into different fibers and different yarns and different tools. Again, it talks all about gauges and blocking and finishing techniques, and it also talks about writing and charting stitch patterns. So anyway, great resource. Definitely buy it. For what it is, it's a really good deal, and I think that you will love having this on your bookshelf. You will pull it down all the time to consult the knitting Bible on how you should proceed if you get stuck in your knitting. And I just think it's great to have one comprehensive source for almost all that you need to know, or at least kind of all that you need to know about the basics. So that's those are my recommendations for the week, and I think that I've been talking for a very, very long time. So I think that I'm going to end the podcast here. Thank you for watching. If you would like to find me on the internet, you can find me on Instagram as more.knits. You can find me on Ravelry as Abby Moreland, and then my website and my email account, and I think that's it. I think that's everywhere you can find me. Anyway, those will be linked below. All of my projects that I talked about in this episode will also be linked below. They'll be linked to my Ravelry project, which has all the information in the projects, or at least I try hard to make sure that all that information is there. But if you, for whatever reason, can't find what you're looking for, please send me a message on YouTube or on Instagram or an email or wherever you find it best to contact people, and let me know or ask me any question, and I will be happy to respond. I will try to do my best to respond in a timely manner. Oh, the Ravelry group. That's the other place that I was thinking of. It is called the More Knits Podcast. It's just a Ravelry group where we talk about, well, it's not super happening. So maybe I will put a bit more work into that. We do have some members that I really enjoy talking with. So anyway, if you are interested in what I'm doing, definitely go hop on over there, join the group, send me a message, leave a comment, whatever. Let me know that you are here, and yeah, that's it for today. So I hope that you all have a lovely few weeks until we talk again. And in the meantime, let me know what you are working on, and also let me know if you're working on the Texture Time Mystery Knit Along, because I would love to see everyone else's projects and the different colors and how theirs are working up. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, week, morning, afternoon, whatever. A lovely knitting time, and I will see you in a few weeks.